We heard from Jameson Greer earlier today, the U.S. Trade Representative. He said the U.S. is generally insulated from a lot of the supply chain effects when it comes to direct commodities and things like that. We have domestic sourcing. We have sourcing from our partners to the north of the U.S. and other places. I'm wondering how we can say that with seeing WTI above $100 a barrel, because it doesn't seem like we're insulated if the U.S. benchmark is that high.
Well, we're generally insulated in terms of supply shortages, for example. So there's plenty of gasoline, there's plenty of crude oil, but we're not insulated from things like rising prices due to global prices going up. Other countries are experiencing much more severe impacts. And we've got countries where they are rationing electricity, they're rationing gasoline, they're rationing other petroleum products. They don't have enough natural gas, for example, for their power plants. So they've either got to switch to coal or just shut them off and have intermittent electricity. So in that sense, yes, we are insulated. But that's not what Americans really want to hear when they go to the gasoline station to fill up and suddenly, the price is $4.50 a gallon or $5 or $6 or probably approaching $7 in California. It doesn't feel like we're insulated.
Yeah, I also think about, is it different? I mean, even, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, right? There was the breadbasket, and we all felt the impact of that. And Europe certainly felt the impact of energy. But I mean, whether we are seeing the pushback on globalization, and we're still kind of connected as a global economy, right? And so eventually, even if we feel like we're insulated now, if what Europe is going through a tough time, they buy U.S. things, you know what I mean? We'll feel it, right?
We're absolutely feeling it. We're going to feel it. I mean, everyone, like you said, we have a very global economy. Just the fact that we participate in, global marketplace. I mean, oil is a global commodity. So if there's a supply shortage somewhere, it means our prices will rise. That's why our prices are rising right now, not because we're worried about having enough of a supply, but because other people are worried about it, rightfully so. And so because it's, an international commodity, and that's how prices work. And the truth is, it's better to be a part of the international trade and the global economy than it's not. But of course, we are feeling these effects, and it's going to show in all parts of the economy. Fuel prices grow up. That means what you're paying at the grocery store goes up. People are hurting for agricultural products like fertilizers and things like that are also made from petroleum. We're going to feel that in our food prices. So yes, while technically we are fairly well insulated, we're still going to feel the effects. We're still going to feel higher prices of things, and essentially like inflation. It's almost like we're paying for this war, maybe not as badly as other people are right now, but we will feel that, and we are feeling it, and it's going to have an effect even after the war ends, even after prices return to a lower state. I'm not sure they're going to go back as low as they had been.
Ellen, I want to get back to that in a second, but first I want to talk about the divergence and then convergence of WTI and Brent, the U.S. and global benchmarks. Why did we see for a couple of weeks these two really detach in terms of price, and now, just in the last day or so, come back very close together? For example, WTI 102 a barrel, Brent just 104.50 a barrel. There was a big divergence in the last few weeks. Why was that?
Well, I think I think there's generally a big divergence. I think that the price of Brent is really it's not really being reflected in what's going on. I think the price of Brent really should be higher.
Really?
The price of Brent came down because of this sentiment that there may be a de-escalation. But if you look at the way things are, functioning, the amount of oil going out, the amount of what the prices people are actually paying for oil internationally, the price of Brent should probably be higher. That saying, I think that's why we're seeing much more of a convergence right now, because the price of Brent is reflecting this traders' kind of hope for the future that there might be a de-escalation and therefore more oil might start to come out, whereas that's not being reflected in the price of WTI.
So how does this change things longer term, Ellen? I keep thinking about, I was talking with our Joe Doe, who follows statecraft and aluminum and rare earths and all that good stuff. But it's just this thinking that, yes, we are a global economy, but increasingly nations are thinking about their own national security and what they need to make sure that their supply chains are really strong and they've got backup. So I just wonder, like, how does that impact maybe the energy markets going forward? Does that mean U.S.? Yep, get ready to drill, baby, drill, because we're going to have to.
So that's a fantastic question. And I think what it means is not just, I think we need to really excise this term independence. What we need to focus on is our interdependence and our supply chains. And so I think one of the reasons that we have fared fairly well in this, in this crisis is that we have developed an incredible interdependence with Canada and also to some extent Mexico. I think with Mexico it could be improved, but most of our oil is imported from Canada. And because of our incredible interdependence with Canada, I like to say we should look at it as North American energy security. Don't look at it as American energy security or US energy security, but North American. Look at it as a continent, because that gives you so much more flexibility, so many more ways to look at supply chains. I mean, we could even expand that out if we're thinking about rare earths and critical minerals as hemispheric security. So there are countries, in the southern hemisphere that have really great supplies of lithium and other rare earths. We need to look at developing those supply chains and securing them, because what if this war was with China, for example? Well, then we'd be in a really different situation in different commodities.
Right. Just take us back to COVID, right? And all the things all of a sudden, like, what? We don't have this?